Jerry West was an intense man. He
Okay.
wanted us to win.
And Jerry West comes in. What the F are you doing? Like, I'm tired of losing. So he grabs me, like right here, and pins me up to the neck. You dummy. I went to the finals, I think he said 7 times. I went to the finals 7 times before I won.
I am 57 years old. I sat courtside for 35 years. I watched men build themselves into legends from Seat 3, Section B, close enough to hear them breathe, close enough to watch their eyes change when something broke inside them. Jerry West died in 2024. The tributes poured in from everywhere. Player after player spoke about his genius, his dedication, his legacy. I listened to every single word, and I noticed who said nothing. Stay with me, because what I watched from those courtside seats, what I heard in hallways and locker rooms and press areas where conversations happened that never made it into any newspaper, it tells a story the tributes could not. Nobody has told this story the way it actually happened, until right now. Jerry West was the logo, the silhouette, the symbol. That was not an accident. In the 1960s, the NBA was becoming a black league, and a certain part of America needed a white superstar they could hold up without having to ask uncomfortable questions about why. West fit perfectly. He was tragic and noble and clutch. He lost in the finals again and again, but he lost beautifully. And the media rewarded him for every beautiful loss. They called him intelligent, hardworking, fundamentally sound. Those words were never neutral. They were a conversation happening below the surface of the sports page, and the black players in that league understood exactly what was being said. Oscar Robertson understood it better than anyone. I covered Robertson in his final seasons. I watched him in warm-ups. There was a stillness about him that never looked like calm. It looked like controlled fury. The man averaged a triple-double for an entire season in 1962. He was doing things that would not be replicated for over 50 years. He filed the lawsuit that eventually gave every NBA player the right to free agency. He was battling segregation in Cincinnati, unable to stay in the same hotels as his white teammates. And through all of it, the press kept talking about Jerry West. Robertson finished second in MVP voting 4 times. West never won one either. But when the 1969 finals ended and the Lakers lost to the Celtics in 7 games, the league gave the finals MVP to Jerry West. The only time in NBA history they gave that award to a player on the losing team. Robertson saw what that meant. The rules bent for West. The grief bent. Even losing bent. I was not in Boston for Game 7 in 1969, but I was in Los Angeles 3 years later when Wilt Chamberlain talked about it. I was standing 8 feet away in a hallway outside the Forum. A man named Gerald, a sports writer out of Philadelphia, maybe 45 years old, leaned over to me and said quietly, "He still isn't over it." He was right. Wilt never got over it. Here is what people say about that game. They say Wilt quit. They say he faked an injury in the 4th quarter because he was afraid to lose. They say Jerry West, who scored 42 points that night, despite suffering a hamstring injury, was the only real warrior on the floor. That is the version that survived. Here is what actually happened. The Lakers were trailing late. Wilt hurt his knee grabbing a rebound and came off the court. With about 5 minutes left, Wilt signaled to Coach Butch Van Bredekoff that he was ready to return. The coach refused. He told Wilt they were doing fine without him. The Lakers lost by 2 points. West made comments after the game that he would have had to be carried out on a stretcher to leave. Decades later, he admitted it was probably the dumbest thing he ever said in his life. But by then, the damage was permanent. Wilt carried the quitter label to his grave. The coach benched him. West never corrected the record. The narrative stayed exactly where the media needed it to stay. Wilt also resented something deeper. When he arrived in Los Angeles, he was asked to stop scoring. Focus on defense. Focus on rebounding. Meanwhile, West and Elgin Baylor kept shooting as much as they wanted. Wilt saw this clearly. A black player changes his entire game. The White Star changes nothing. He saw it in 1969. He saw it every season they played together. He never stopped seeing it. Now Magic Johnson. This one is different because the betrayal happened before Magic ever played a single minute as a Laker. In 1979, the Lakers had the #1 pick in the draft. Magic Johnson had just won a national championship at Michigan State. The choice seemed obvious. Jerry West, working as a scout, fought against it. He lobbied ownership to take Sidney Moncrief instead. West thought Magic was too tall to run point guard at 6'9". He was suspicious of the improvisation, the showmanship, what he called unsound basketball. He wanted the fundamental player, the safe player. Magic eventually found out. I was in Los Angeles when the winning time controversy exploded in 2022. West was furious at his portrayal in the HBO series. He demanded a retraction. He demanded an apology. He expected the players he had spent his career building into champions to defend him publicly and loudly. Magic Johnson issued general comments dismissing the show, but offered no specific defense of West's character. West felt that silence as a verdict. For West, who had built the dynasty that made Magic a billionaire icon, this was a failure of loyalty. What West could never fully accept was that Magic might have remembered 1979. That there are some things you do not forget, no matter how many championships come after them. Spencer Haywood's story is where the dark gets absolute. Haywood joined the Lakers for the 1979-80 season and was battling severe cocaine addiction. During the 1980 finals against Philadelphia, he fell asleep at a team practice because of freebasing. The Lakers suspended him immediately. As the team won the championship, Haywood sat at home, erased. The official story was that the organization had no choice. You cannot have a player missing practice during the finals. The cost to Haywood was not administrative. It was total. He lost the ring. He lost the recognition. He lost everything at the exact moment the team he had given his career to was at its highest point. Consumed by addiction and rage, Haywood contacted associates from Detroit with mob connections. The plan was to sabotage Coach Paul Westhead's car and drive him off a cliff. While the specific target was Westhead, Haywood's hatred extended to West, the man he viewed as the architect of the organization that had discarded him. His mother called him during that period. Something in her voice broke through. He stopped before anything happened. That is not a footnote. That is the cost. When Winning Time aired and depicted that era accurately, Haywood was one of the few people who said the show got it right. West was threatening lawsuits. Haywood was saying, yes, that is exactly what it was like. Two men, same events, completely different truths. Then there was Shaquille O'Neal, and Shaq's story has a different ending, but the same beginning. West signed Shaq to a massive contract in 1996. By 1998, the Lakers were swept by Utah in the Western Conference Finals. Shaq erupted in the locker room and destroyed it. He ripped a urinal from the wall. He tore stall doors off hinges. He smashed a television. Players fled. Coaches stepped back. Jerry West walked in. He was 60 years old. Shaq was 7'1" and 325 pounds and out of his mind with rage. West walked straight at him, grabbed him, and pinned him against the wall. Shaq has described being shocked by what he called old man strength. West looked him in the eye and said, "What are you doing, you dummy? I went to the finals 7 times before I won. Your time is going to come. Stop acting like a baby." In that moment, Shaq hated him. He was being physically handled and publicly humiliated by the older white executive. The hierarchy was being reasserted without any apology. Shaq was the talent. West was the authority. Those were not equal things. Shaq eventually called it the moment he learned what accountability actually looked like. But he also watched West leave the Lakers in 2000, exhausted by the task of managing Shaq and Kobe. Shaq has said since that if West had stayed, the dynasty might not have broken apart. That West was the only one with enough credibility to hold it together. I sat courtside for 35 years. I watched West build teams that should have won more than they did. I watched him demand things from black players that he never demanded from himself or from the white institutions surrounding him. I watched him fight against Magic Johnson in 1979 and spend the next 2 decades taking credit for Magic's career. I watched the 1969 Finals MVP trophy go to a man on the losing team while Wilt Chamberlain was called a quitter for the rest of his natural life. What I learned from watching all of it is this: the logo does not belong to the man it resembles. It belongs to the institution that chose his silhouette. And the institution never chooses randomly. West was the brand. Robertson and Wilt and Magic and Haywood and Shaq were the game. Those are not the same thing. 35 years courtside. I watched them all. The game won. The brand got the trophy.